What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Stout Out Show, your one-stop shop for all things MMA bets, breakdowns, and predictions. On deck for today's show, we have UFC Fight Night 272, aka UFC Las Vegas 115. Whatever the hell you're calling it, it's going down this Saturday, April 4th. We got Renato Money Moicano in the main event, taking on Chris Duncan in the lightweight division. Guys, it's not the best fight card in the world, but it's not the worst either. It's a great chance for to make some money. Speaking of making money, guys, the Stout Out Army is 65% on the year, 65% in straight up money picks. Guys, who's doing it better than us? I really don't know, nor do I care. I just know that we're crushing it for the Stout Out Army. More to the point, though, guys, I really appreciate everybody who follows me, whether it goes like Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called, or Instagram. I really appreciate it. If you like what you're seeing, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, really helps me out. And I just love interacting with everybody in terms of picks. But without further ado, let's get into the first fight of the night. Okay, guys, first fight of the night to kick off UFC Fight Night 272 is going to be Kamaka III taking on Dakota Hope. Kamaka III is going to be your favorite at a -170, while Dakota Hope is your +132 dog. Kamaka is making his return to the UFC. While he was there a couple years ago, he was 1-2-1, not the best record in the world, kind of why he got left to the wayside. But hey, he's hoping to return, make a mark this time. He's also got that good fighting experience. You know, he's got high-level competition while he was in the UFC. But again, what we like about him is he's a high-volume striker, right? Constant output, and he keeps his opponents on the back foot. Always trying to win rounds through activity, okay? I watched him fight. I liked his boxing fundamentals too. Good, clean combos, and he's got a pretty solid jab, which I like too, and he works the body-head combos really well. Good cardio and good pace, obviously should be expected for a fighter of his experience. He can maintain strong output through all three rounds, and, he's built for high-paced fights. On the downside, though, even though he is coming off of a knockout win of his last fight, don't get me wrong, he does have some flashes, but for the most part, he does not have that one-punch knockout power, okay? He very much likes, opponents can absorb his shots, is what I'm saying. They can walk through a couple of them to get, not only do damage to him, but if they want to take a takedown, they can as well. Speaking of takedowns, I definitely have some concerns about his grappling. He can be taken down by stronger wrestlers. He can be controlled while his opponent is on top position, and he has some trouble getting back to his feet. Path to victory I see for Kamaka is basically, let's establish the pace early, right? Let's start fast. Let's establish our jab and our combos and make sure we take the center of the cage. Let's, we dictate the pace, so to speak, okay? Volume pressure is 100% going to be turned on, okay? Let's keep our output high, and let's, again, like I said earlier, let's keep our opponent on the back foot. For Dakota Hope, on the other hand, this is his UFC debut, okay? Guys, he's a pretty explosive guy, man. He's got his fast, powerful bursts, and he's got very, very dangerous hands, man. Definitely has some knockout power, okay? He can overwhelm his opponents early, which kind of, I know some people are like, well, dude, he has decision wins, but, he might fade in later rounds, but we'll see. His athleticism is off the charts, right? He's quick moving, definitely good reaction time, and in terms of dynamics, dude, physically, he can put a hurting on you, okay? Very strong frame for the lightweight division. Can impose his will, definitely in terms of physicality and when he's in the clinch. And in terms of that, he's difficult to deal with early. The only thing I don't like about, not the only thing, but the thing that really scares me about Hope is that he relies more on his athleticism at times than he does a structured fight. He kind of throws the game plan out the window if he feels that he's, more powerful than his opponents and then he can get the knockout early in round one. That can kind of lead to his downfall. He can be countered. He does leave himself open in exchanges. But, again, if you got it, why not use it, right? Like I said, for his path to victory, let's start fast, okay? Let's apply that pressure early. We're going to try to get Kamaka out in the first rounds. Definitely going to be swinging for the fences in the first rounds. I'm more than likely guaranteeing that. And if the window presents itself for the finish, let's get it. Let's mix our levels. Let's mix our angles. And let's avoid overextending and look for that perfect shot. Guys, I'm going to go with the underdog for this one. I think Dakota Hope's ceiling is going to be higher than Kamaka's. Kamaka's a little older, but, he had a shot in the UFC, right? He, didn't work out for him that time, but Dakota Hope, I mean, from what I've seen, not so much sky's the limit, but it's a little higher than Kamaka's in my opinion. So I'm going to say Dakota Hope. I'm going to go with, Dakota Hope's never been submitted before, and I think he's only lost by knockout twice. So I'm going to say Dakota Hope by decision. It's definitely going to go there. I think it's going to. All right, next up we have Dione Barbosa taking on Melissa Gato in the women's flyweight division. All right, Barbosa is a -150 favorite, and Gato is a +125 dog. Guys, looking at this fight straight off the paper, it's literally two sides of the same coin. Both these girls are going to have the same game plan going in. Both of them are grapplers. Both of them have kind of high-level BJJ. So just bear with me on this one for the breakdown. But all right, Barbosa, she's 3-2 in the UFC. She's just coming off a unanimous decision loss to Corinne Silva that happened back in August. She's never been submitted, and like I said, very, very high-level submission game, okay? She's dangerous from multiple positions, right? Excellent top control. And when it comes to, advancing her position on the ground, she's super methodical about it, right? She looks for those mistakes that our opponents give her, and she's going to capitalize on them, okay? Very active in transitions. And, against lesser opponents, if she finds herself in a bad position, she's very likely able to reverse that position. She can sweep, with the best of them. Downside with her, she relies almost too much on the grappling. Her striking is very rudimentary at best. It definitely has its limitations, and it's pretty obviously it's still developing. She can be outstruck at range. Do I think Melissa Gato is going to do that? No. But, again, in terms of physicality, again, if it's a stronger wrestler, she can kind of be out-muscled. She can be kept on the ground simply by a stronger wrestler. I'm not saying she can't sweep and get out of bad positions, but for more domineering fighters, then yeah, she's in some trouble, okay? For her path to victory, it's pretty, I think the game plan is going to be pretty simple. Let's close our distance early, establish top position when we get the takedown, and avoid long-term striking exchanges, right? That's going to be her downfall. But we're going to initiate the grappling right off the bat, right? Basic striking, use our jabs and feints to get a reaction from our opponent. Once the reaction's gained, boom, let's hit the double leg, let's get our takedowns, okay? Also good scramble awareness too. Let's not rush the submissions, but let's wait to set them up. Kind of, again, chess games, right? If my opponent makes the mistake, I have enough knowledge and willpower and, to capitalize on that mistake. Melissa Gato, she's 3-2 in the UFC. She's coming off a good TKO win against Tamir Silva. That happened in May of 2024. I know she's had a pretty good amount of injuries in the past, and she's kind of leading back to, where she is presently, but she's never been finished. Very good ground game herself. Dangerous from the guard, also really good at taking the back in transitions. She definitely has the proven ability to finish on the ground. In terms of her offense, though, very opportunistic. If her opponent, again, much like Barbosa, if they make a mistake, Gato is going to literally capitalize on it. She's going to smell blood in the water, and she's going to take your back, and she's going to choke you out, okay? She's going to use her striking to set up the grappling, but much like Barbosa, again, this is all developing, right? It's not, she did get a TKO win, but, I just don't think it's up to the level of, she's not a striker, right? I mean, she's got okay striking, but it's not the best in the world, right? She's not the fastest in terms of her hands, but hey, everybody's got a puncher's chance. And for terms of path to victory for her, she's got to layer her offense. And by that, I mean, much like Barbosa, let's establish our position immediately. Let's get the takedown and get on top position. Also, let's use our feints to draw reactions. And if that doesn't happen, let's secure the clinch and let's look for our takedown opportunities, whether that's, staying tight and getting technical with our transitions. And let's not force our positions, but let's capitalize instead. Again, guys, this is really tight to just, call. I'm going to go with Barbosa. I know she's the favorite, but simply because obviously she's more, she's got more fights under her belt in the last 2 years. 2 years is a long layoff, man. And going against a girl like Barbosa after you return, that's a pretty tall order to have. But I think I think Barbosa, in my opinion, is the better grappler. So and they both have the same record. So I'm going to I'm going to say Barbosa via decision. I was going to say submission. I was kind of going back and forth with that. But I just think the ground games are going to nullify each other. I don't think one's better in that department than the other. So I'm going to say Barbosa via decision. I think it's going to go to the distance. I think she's going to have better control time and, just have better, initiate better damage from that position. So, yeah, Barbosa for the decision win. Next up, in the middleweight division, we have Azamat Bekoev taking on Tresean Gore. Guys, this is going to be a big theme of the night. This is not the biggest odds swing that we have tonight, but it's up there. Bekoev is your minus 600 favorite, and I got Tresean Gore, your plus 430 dog. This is a really bad stylistic matchup for my boy Tresean Gore. Bekoev is, he's 2-1 in the UFC. He's coming off of a TKO loss himself against Yusuri Belgore. Guys, if you did not see Belgore fight his last fight against Mansour Abdul-Malik, he put on a clinic in terms of striking. That dude, he is on his way up to the top 10. I know I'm a big Mansour Abdul-Malik fan myself. He's a Terps guy, University of Maryland wrestler. But, dude, he nullified that so fast with his leg kicks, kicking him on the inside of his leg, taking away the takedown. And dude, he was just putting on a clinic in terms of striking. So, that losing to him is not, hey, it's nothing to sneeze at, dude. That's a solid loss, man. It's the guy's fucking legit. But back to Bekoev. All right, Bekoev, he's got an elite wrestling base. Strong takedown entries, single legs, double legs, body locks. If he can get you down to the ground, he's going to do it. Not only that, but he's so good at chain wrestling, guys. He is going to, if he can't get you down the first time, he's going to try and try and try until he gets what he wants to do, okay? Very good when he gets you to the ground in terms of top pressure. Very good hips, very heavy hips, and he's got that strong positional awareness. Maintains control pretty effectively, and his grapple IQ is off the charts. And by IQ, I mean he knows how to win minutes in the rounds. Guys, from that area of the world, I don't think it's a trade secret. They're going to go, if they can get you to the ground, they're going to take you there. And if they can't find the submission, they know at least how to maintain control, do some damage, and get the win via decision. I know these guys know how to win the rounds. It's not so much lay and pray, but if they're going to, I dare you to try to get away from me, get back to your feet. That's the game plan. His striking, as we saw in the Belgore fight, very limited in that aspect. It's functional, but it's not dangerous. Very limited output on the feet. And then for Tresean Gore, in terms of that, Bekoev has got predictable entries. Tresean Gore's got, knockout power. And when you're predictable, we know the game plan of Bekoev is going to try to take you down. That leaves you open for either knees coming in or uppercuts. Path to victory for Bekoev is it's pressure and let's close the distance. We're going to walk the opponent down with striking, but then as soon as we get him up against the cage or get a body lock on him, we are taking you to the ground. Okay? We're going to disguise our level changes with feints, but again, it's no state secret. We are trying to take you down. Okay? Tresean Gore, on the other hand, he's on a tough skid right now, boys. He's 2-4 in the UFC, coming off unanimous decision loss to Rodolfo Vieira that happened back in August, and he's riding a 2-fight losing skid. The UFC is not doing him any favors when they pair him up against Bekoev, right? Like I said, he's got fight-changing power. He's got good knockout, power in both hands. Not a big volume guy, but if he can connect with that one perfect shot, you're going lights out, okay? And if you're his opponent, you gotta respect his power, okay? He does have some submission capability. He's opportunistic in scrambles and, dangerous when it comes to, if he sees it, he's going to take it, right? Big knock on Tresean Gore, though, is sometimes his output's pretty low. He can lose rounds due to inactivity, and that's not because, he's scared or anything. It's just that he gets tentative because he's waiting for that one perfect shot because he knows he can knock you out with that one perfect shot, but that can lose you the rounds. That's losing minutes, right? His footwork and movement kind of suspect. He can be stationary at times. Opponents can outwork him, especially on the outside. And again, the biggest knock on him, at least for this fight, is his defensive wrestling. Okay, he can be controlled by strong wrestlers and really struggles to get back to his feet if he's controlled to the ground. Obviously, Tresean Gore's path to victory, he's going to look to keep it standing. I'm going to look for counter right hands, hooks, uppercuts when Bekoev's trying to come in and take me down. But, again, let's keep it standing. The worst thing that could happen is this guy's going to try to take me down for all 3 rounds. Also, let's get some explosive moments on our hands. By that, I mean, let's commit to our combinations. Let's make sure they're crisp, they're accurate, and let's try to really put some leather on Bekoev's face and put him down. Guys, I'm going to go with Vegas on this one straight up. I'm going to say Bekoev takes this. I think Tresean Gore is just not even close to the wrestler as Bekoev is. It's not even, I know. I'm going to say submission with this one. Second round submission, Bekoev all the way on this one, though. Our next fight in the women's division, again, is going to be Alice Pereira taking on Hailey Cowan in the bantamweight division. Pereira is your minus 125 favorite, while Cowan's your plus 105 dog. Pereira, she's 0-1 in the UFC. She's coming off a split decision loss against Montserrat Rondon that happened in September. But again, I know she lost, but she's never been finished. She constantly pushes her opponents backward, and she's got a strong killer instinct. She's got a very good chin on her too. She doesn't let her opponents recover early if she smells blood in the water, and she's got a good strong clinch presence, man. She carries real stopping power in both hands. I just thought, against Rondon, that it just wasn't her night. Unfortunately, she does leave opponents, she gets overly aggressive sometimes, which I saw. She leaves openings, she leaves the structured fight for the chaos. If she smells blood or thinks she can get the knockout, she's going to just go for it. That could really hurt her or help her, depending on what it is. And then finally, just she chases the finish kind of recklessly. Path to victory for her. Let's fast start, cage pressure, and let's land power and swarm and finish. Hailey Cowan, on the other hand, she's 1-2 in the UFC, coming off of a submission loss against Nicoll that happened in April. And man, she's riding a 2-fight skid too, Ben. So she needs this win bad. Okay. Good long frame for the division. She keeps her opponents at distance really well, which I really like. And she's a good technical striker, right? She's got clean fundamentals, good straight punches that really land effectively and accurately. And like I said, she's comfortable striking at distance. Her movement, she uses her footwork really, really well to reset range, and she can frustrate and overly aggressive opponents. The big knock on her, though, again, grappling and takedown defense. That's the biggest concern in her game, right? Pereira, I don't know if she's gonna, I think she's always chasing the knockout. She's got stopping hands. So I mean, while I think she can take Cowan down, do I think she's gonna look to do it? Probably not. Against stronger wrestlers, Cowan really struggles to get back to her feet. In terms of physicality, if she gets in a clinch against a stronger opponent, she has a really, really hard time escaping that. She gets stuck against the cage a lot. And she's more of a point scorer, guys, meaning she's not chasing the knockout like that. She's trying to win the rounds. She's trying to win the decisions, and she doesn't really capitalize on damage, which is kind of a bad thing. But in terms of her winning, the path to victory I see is basically let's distance layer. Let's jab, let's cross, and then let's exit, okay? Let's low kick, disrupt our opponent's base, and, avoid prolonged exchanges. We got to have, end volume strategy as well, right? Let's stay active enough to win the round, and let's touch our opponent consistently. I think Pereira's got a bigger bigger upside. Hailey Cowan's kind of got a ceiling to her. She's not in terms of, she does a couple things well, but not enough things well enough to beat Pereira. I'm saying Pereira's going to win this one, second round submission. I think she's got a better game in the ground game. And, Hailey Cowan might have a slight edge in terms of technical striking, but in terms of blood in the water, straight up aggression, Pereira's got her beat. So I'm saying second round submission, Alice Pereira. All right, next fight up in the lightweight division, we have Lando Vannata taking on Darrius Flowers. All right, Vannata is your minus 220 favorite, while Flowers is your plus 180 dog. All right, Vannata is 4-7-2 in the UFC. He's coming off a unanimous decision loss against Daniel Zellhuber that happened in April of 2023. My boy Vannata hasn't fought in a minute. All right, he's riding a 2-fight losing streak, but hey. He definitely has the opportunity to come back against Darrius Flowers, because my boy is on a skid right now. Flowers, that is. Anyway, back to Vannata. He's got that unorthodox and creative striking, which is pretty cool. He's his arsenal includes spinning attacks, he uses feints really well, and he comes at you at tricky angles. Proven ability to finish fights, definitely can do it on the ground as well, and he's got good explosiveness and timing. Excellent at timing counters, can catch the guys coming in, knock them out, put them lights out pretty good, and good quick bursts of offense as well. His submission ability is pretty proven as well, opportunistic grappler, and he's dangerous in the scrambles. Big knock on him, as what we see kind of throughout the card. He's kind of inconsistent, and he has low output in terms of striking. He can be passive at times, and he kind of gives away rounds waiting for these good opportunities or the perfect shots, and that can definitely lose him some minutes. Takedown defense is a little left to be desired too. Against guys who are better or superior wrestlers, he can be controlled, he can be taken down. He kind of struggles to get back to his feet off of scrambles at times, but that's not really Darrius Flowers' game. Path to victory I see for Vannata is, let's establish our rhythm, guys. Let's use our feints. Let's use our movement early, keep our opponent guessing, and come at him with those tricky angles and those spinning attacks, right? Let's create openings as well. Let's attack with explosive entries, and let's mix punches and kicks and, use body head combos pretty consistently. Darrius Flowers, like I said, he's 1-3 in the UFC, coming off of a submission loss against Evan Elder. He last fought in July 2024, if you can believe that. And he's riding a 3-fight losing streak. So both of them they both need wins pretty bad. I can also see him, if whoever loses this fight, probably going to pack their bags and head to the PFL or some other promotion. But anyway, Flowers has got some explosive power. Definitely rhymes, but we like it. Fight-ending power in both hands, and, he's got a lot of aggression, which, fighters got to respect, or his opponents have to respect, right? Pretty athletic, can definitely overwhelm and outpoint slower opponents, and definitely has a strong physical presence in the clinch or, in terms of just straight-up in-tight exchanges. Has a good finishing instinct, jumps on our opponents rather quickly if he smells blood in the water, and very dangerous, especially in the early rounds. Defensive gaps in terms of the downside. His head movement isn't really where it needs to be. He definitely can get hit clean when he's overly aggressive. And his fight IQ and discipline, that's good. Again, a little left to be desired as well, right? Chasing these highlight knockouts, chasing these big, imposing punches, like one-shot knockout power, that definitely limits you or opens you up to get countered. And when you abandon structured fights for chaos, you limit yourself. There's plenty of mistakes to be made, right? Path to victory I see for Flowers is, let's start fast, okay? Let's apply the pressure immediately, and let's look for that knockout, okay? Both of them, ring rust is going to be a thing for these guys. Both of them haven't fought in a long time, so it's not like one has the advantage over the other in that department. But for Flowers is, we got to control our aggression, right? Let's not overswing. Let's pick our shots. Let's use combinations rather than single bombs. But I think just Vannata, I'm going to say, this is really, well, for me, it's kind of hard to call just because they both have such a long layoff. But I'm going to say Vannata on this one. I'm saying his ground game's better. That's going to be a little harder for Flowers to keep him off of him in terms of that. So I'm going to say I'm going to say Vannata second round submission of that one. Next fight, we have Alessandro Costa taking on Stewart Nicoll in the flyweight division. Costa is your -400 favorite, while Nicoll is a +310 dog. All right, Costa's 3-3 in the UFC. He's coming off of a TKO loss against Alden Correa. That happened in September. I really like Costa in terms of this, man. He's got a good technical striking, good boxing fundamentals, and he's super accurate when it comes to combos, man. I also like what he implements in his game, which is really, really good to see, is his kicking game, man. He manages distance like a G, dude. Really good in that department in terms of IQ, and uses range to his advantage, man. Stays within his structure, very game plan oriented, right? Grappling, little left to be desired. His takedown defense is still developing, can be controlled by strong wrestlers, and the big knock on Costa, man, he's not really a finisher. He's very much of a point scorer. He doesn't really chase the knockout or the finish like he should, and tends not to capitalize on damage as well. But still a good enough striker. I think he's going to outlast Nicoll. On the other hand, again, path to victory for Costa. Let's establish our range, right? Use our jabs often, use our kicking often, and maintain the center of the cage. Let's keep we're gonna cut it off, keep Nicoll on the outside. In terms of, another path to victory is let's accumulate damage, while we're targeting the body of Nicoll, and really, really good with, use our combos to our advantage and avoid at all costs grappling exchanges. Nicoll is going to need a win here bad. He does not have a win in the UFC. He's 0-2. He's coming off a unanimous decision loss to Lucas Roca. That happened in September, and he's obviously riding a 2-fight skid. It doesn't win this one, I guarantee he's gone, right? Nicoll, I do like his relentless pressure, constant forward movement, forces opponents backward, and he's pretty good in the clinch, right? Very physically strong. We've seen him at times, post his or pin his opponent to the cage, able to use some good clinch work and some trips to take his opponents down, and, kind of effective at controlling the position. His top control is pretty good in terms of once he gets you there, it's very hard to get him off. He limits limits opponents' movement, and kind of prioritizes control over risk. That, on the other hand, though, this is why he's losing all these fights, is basically his striking arsenal is very, very limited, right? It's very fundamental, it's basic, it's only to get the takedowns, and really, really lacks diversity, especially at range, right? Movement is another thing that's, kind of working against him. He does not cut off the cage that well, and he doesn't capitalize on damage, which is not good going against a guy like Alessandro Costa. Path to victory for Nicoll, obviously, is pressure immediately. We need to take the center of the cage, and we need to try to take you down, okay? Let's eliminate the space. Let's take away Costa's range. That's one of his big weapons, like we said earlier. Also, let's use our cage control to our advantage. We got really good body locks, and he forces opponents, he can force his opponent's position pretty well. That's a very big upside for him. If he can use his body locks and trips to hit his advantage, I can see a world where he might be able to pull off a decision win, but again, he really has to be able to secure the takedowns and maintain pressure. This fight, I'm going to say this is all Costa. He's, like I said, he's minus 400 for a reason. I think he's going to get the decision, so I'm going to say Alessandro Costa for the win. The fight goes the distance. All right, guys, our featured prelim for the night is Guilherme Pat taking on Thomas Petersen. The odds are pretty, they're not even, but they're getting close. Pat's are minus 115, and Petersen is minus 105, okay? Pat's 1-0 in the UFC. He's coming off a pretty good unanimous decision win against Alan Fry. That happened in December. And he's undefeated at this point, right? The dude is 6'5", boys and girls. He is huge, okay? Very good submission threat. He's dangerous in transitions, and he attacks submissions from multiple angles, okay? His scramble ability is top-notch, too. Very good and active in transitions, and can reverse positions pretty well as well. In terms of his fight IQ, I think he recognizes his opponent's mistakes rather quickly. He can download data like, okay, hey, this is going well. He can read his opponent pretty well and just really pounce on their mistakes. He can recognize openings and scrambles pretty good as well. Striking still very limited, but I think it's on the rise. You know what I mean? I think every time I see him, it's like he's better conditioning, and his striking's kind of getting better and better too. Okay. He can be outstruck by technical opponents, but again, I think it's just more or less, hey, as he gets more and more fights under his belt, he's going to be a little bit better in that department. His position discipline can go out the window at times. He sacrifices control for attacks, and, he can, if he's chasing submissions, he can lose positional dominance. Path to victory for Pat is, initiate chaos early. Let's engage in the clinch. Let's get our takedown attempts, and let's force our grappling exchanges. And let's create some scrambles as well, right? Avoid static positions, and let's put Petersen on the back foot, make him reactive instead of active. Petersen's he's 3-3 in the UFC, coming off of a pretty solid KO loss against Vitor Petrino that happened in October. But to Petersen's defense, man, he's wrestling. He's a wrestler. He's a wrestling-based fighter, right? He's never been submitted. Very strong takedown ability for the heavyweight division, and he can dictate kind of where the fight wants to go. Top control, very good. Another plus on Petersen's side. Very heavy pressure, and good control position effectively as well. Kind of has that grinded out, strategy, that game plan. He wins minutes through control. He likes to slow the pace down and kind of get control, get ground and pound going. It's not ideally for the casual fans, but if that's the way he wins, that's the way he wins. Also, the good thing for Pat is that, the striking isn't going to nullify one or the other. I mean, they're both kind of sit like, the same level in terms of striking. Not really Peterson's not really that dangerous at range. Again, striking's pretty rudimentary. And he's predictable in terms of, hey, we know Petersen's going to try to take us down. That is his bread and butter, all right? He relies super heavily on his wrestling, and which allows opponents to play for that game plan. Path to victory for Petersen is basically close the distance, use basic striking to enter the range, and we're going to try to get Pat into where we like it. We're going to find out who's who on the ground, okay? Takedown entries, okay, let's shoot doubles or singles or clinch-based takedowns, and we're going to try to get Pat to the ground, okay? We're going to try to do our chain wrestling. If first we don't succeed, we're going to try again, and I think, he thinks he can take Pat down. Guys, this is a very tight one for us, but I'm going to go with Pat on this one. I know he's slightly less favored, but I'm liking him. He just looks better every time I see him in the cage. So I'm going to say Pat via distance on this one. I don't think he's got enough to sub Thomas Petersen, but I think he's going to grind it out and get the win for the decision. All right, boys and girls, we are on to the main card. First fight kicking it off is in the featherweight division. We have Jose Delano taking on Robert Ruchala. Delano is your minus 400 favorite, while Ruchala is your plus 310 dog. All right, right into it. Delano is 1-0 in the UFC, riding a solid 4-fight win streak. Has a coming off a unanimous decision win against Manuel Esposito that happened back in August. All right, what I like about him is his forward pressure and his pace, right? He forces his opponents to react, and he can overwhelm lesser composed fighters, right? Especially with his striking volume. Keeps opponents busy defensively, and he builds damage over time. His durability and toughness is really something to look out too, especially he's willing to take a shot to get a shot. Super mentally resilient as well. On the dark side of the thing, he's got some defensive gaps. He can be hit clean in exchanges and kind of relies more on his chin and his toughness rather than straight up defense, right? Grappling defense, still, a little less to be desired, still developing in that department. He's shown limited offensive grappling, but, still, if you can win by striking and keep guys off you, hey, go for it, right? His path to victory is, I see as follows, right? Let's control our aggression, throw combinations, not single power shots. Cut off the cage effectively, establish that, we're going to be on the offense, get our opponent to react, and basically set the tone with volume. Robert Ruchala, on the other hand, he's 0-1 in the UFC. Just lost a unanimous decision loss to William Gomes in September. Good thing with him as far as grappling goes, he's never been submitted. Very well-rounded skill set, right? He can switch approaches mid-fight, and he really good adapts to his opponent's style of fighting. In terms of grappling control, like I said, very good, well-rounded guy. Good, strong top game, and he's effective at takedowns and positional controls. Good pace, too. I don't think it's as much as Delano's, but he's got a pretty good high output for 3 rounds. He can win minutes consistently, but I think when it comes to the upper echelon of opponents that he's facing, that's kind of where he's going to fall short. His finishing power, not really that there either. More of a volume guy than a knockout power. Looks, when he sees blood in the water, he doesn't swarm. He doesn't really capitalize on damage as much as I would like him to. And against physically opposing fighters, he's not as strong as the guys, as some of them in the featherweight division. But again, he's going to use his tools to his advantage, and that's pretty much to establish pace. He's going to use his jab really well, going to use head movement pretty good. Let's set the rhythm. Let's make sure like I say, kind of the same thing as Delano, but I think more in terms of let's set the rhythm in terms of let's see if we can establish the takedown game, right? If they're available, let's secure the takedowns, and let's maintain top control. Guys, on this one, I know they're both kind of new. I just think Delano's got a way, way higher ceiling than Ruchala does. I don't think this fight is going to end in the first or second round. I think it's going to either end in early or late third if it doesn't go to the decision. I'm saying Delano is going to get this one done, obviously, but I'm just going to say it's going to go to the distance. All right, next fight up is going to be Tommy McMillan taking on Manolo Zacchini in the featherweight division. This is going to be one of our largest odd swings yet, so if you want to build a parlay around this, I highly suggest it. I'm going to be putting my parlays out tomorrow, which is Thursday, but anyway, Tommy McMillan is your minus 1,200 favorite, and I got Zacchini as a plus 750 dog. All right, McMillan's 1-0 in the UFC. Got a unanimous decision against David Magadian in September. He's undefeated. Very, very heavy forward pressure, right? Constantly pushes opponents backward, super aggressive, and, pretty much controls his tempo through his aggression, right? Big volume guy, throws a ton of combinations, and he builds damage over time. I think where he really stands out to me is he's really strong in his clinch game, and he thrives in these gritty type phone booth fights, right? Still a lot of grappling. I wouldn't say issues because he's undefeated, but I just haven't seen enough to make a decision one way or the other. In terms of fight IQ, he can get drawn into these unnecessary brawls, which kind of leave his chin exposed, give one to take one, but, he doesn't really adjust to styles mid-fight as much as I would like. But, hey, he's undefeated, so if it's working for him, keep going, right? Let's set the tone early in terms of path to victory. Let's set the tone early. Let's establish our pace and our volume. And as the fight progresses, let's increase the pressure, but let's look to get it. He's probably going to look for Zacchini to get him out of there in the first round, okay? Zacchini, on the other hand, he's a little bit chinny. He's 0-1 in the UFC. Just got knocked out by Morgan Charrier. That happened in September. His grappling base, is good. I think that's, he's got good solid takedown ability. He's effective at bringing fights to the mat. And, he's got a pretty good submission threat too. When opportunities present themselves and, he sees mistakes being made on the ground, he'll definitely capitalize on it. Okay. He's aggressive when it comes to submission hunting. He's going to try to also dictate the pace, maybe in another way in terms of grappling, but he's definitely looking to put his opponents in uncomfortable positions in terms of that. The big thing that's the big knock on it, which I see, is not only, if I didn't say this, he hasn't fought in some time too. He's had a pretty long layoff, but his striking is nowhere near Tommy McMillan's, right? He can be outclassed at range. His arsenal is very, very rudimentary in that department. And, in terms of submissions, I think McMillan's got enough to not get submitted by him. And because, Zacchini, his discipline is not there in terms of that. He's going to hunt the submission, but he's also going to lose position as well, right? He can be overly aggressive in that department. For the path to victory, I see for Zacchini, though, if he has a chance of getting it done, it's immediate pressure. Let's back up Tommy McMillan to the cage. Let's try to get a clinch game on, try to take him to the ground, and basically secure a takedown or a body lock. The way to win for Zacchini, we got to submit him, and that's the only way is to get it to the ground. I don't think that's happening at all. I mean, the odds are pretty much stacked in advance. I'm saying Tommy McMillan, KO, round 1, end of story. Let's go home. Let's celebrate. All right, next up in the bantamweight division, we have Ethan Ewing taking on Rafael Esteban. Ewing is your minus 160 favorite, while Esteban is your plus 135 dog. Okay, Ewing is 1-0 in the UFC. He's coming off a great short-term notice win against Malcolm Wallenmaker that happened in September, and he's riding a 9-fight win streak. Guys, if you didn't see that fight, Ewing put on a spectacle. He came in late notice and just, I know Malcolm Wallenmaker was a prospect, and everybody thought he was going to deal Ewing out in the first round. Dude showed up and showed out. Really, really solid performance by him. Good wrestling base, solid takedown entries, and really, as you saw in the Wellmaker fight, he can dictate the fight where he wants it to go, okay? Top control, really good as well. He maintains his position well, and he limits his opponent's offense from there. Very well-rounded development as well. Every fight he's improving his striking fundamentals. He's not purely one-dimensional. Striking threat, like I said, it's improving, but it's not where it needs to be yet. He's limited in danger on the feet, and he can be outstruck by more technical fighters. But again, he's riding a 9-fight win streak, right? His offensive urgency, I'd like to see a little bit more out of. He's more. Sometimes it looks like he's more control focused than anything, and if he struggles to get his opponent down on the takedown, that's when kind of he's in the deep water. It might not, it doesn't go so well for him. Path to victory for him, grappling engagement, right? Let's initiate our clinch exchanges, stay persistent with entries, and maintain top position. Obviously, he wants to close the distance early and use his striking or what he has of it to, close the distance and force his opponent on the back foot. Esteban, on the other hand, he's 4-0 in the UFC, coming off a good unanimous decision win against Felipe Bunes that happened in August, and he's undefeated. High-level BJJ guy, advanced submission skills, very strong finishing instincts when opportunities appear, and good positional control. Very good in terms of advancement methodically, right? Position before submission, definitely. Okay? His takedown ability is pretty solid too. Very good at chaining attempts down, and he's persistent. You know, he's one of these guys, if he doesn't get you down the first time, he's going to try to get you down the third and fourth time, okay? The big thing I see is he going to be stronger than Ethan Ewing? Can he physically overwhelm Ethan Ewing to get the takedown? That's kind of where he struggles, right? You know, he's not the biggest for the division. You know, he needs clean entries to impose his will. And, you know, I kind of see the same thing for him. He's kind of low urgency. You know, he doesn't always push for finishes. It's more for control. So the big thing I do like about him is I think his ground game in terms of submissions is a little above and beyond Ethan Ewing's, okay? That's what's going to be the path to victory for him, I see, is maintain the position, secure it, and let's start looking for submissions, okay? I don't think Ewing has I think he's a good wrestler. I just don't think he's going to be enough to defend the submission threat for Esteban, okay? If Esteban attacks the high percentage submissions, the ones that really, he stays patient, doesn't lose positions, and sees it before it's happening, I think it's his all day. So I'm going to say Rafael Esteban. I'm going to say he's going to win this round 2 via submission. Definitely going with the underdog with this one. Bear with me for this one, guys. All right, this is our next huge swing of the night. Build this into the parlay. Abdul-Rakhman Yakiev taking on Brenson Ribeiro. Yakiev is a minus 1,600 favorite to Ribeiro's, who's a plus 1,800 dog. This is in the light heavyweight division. Yakiev is 2-0 in the UFC. He's coming off a good submission win against Rafael Sakira that happened in November, and he's undefeated as of now. Very good wrestler, right? Strong takedown entries and good chain wrestling. Very good very hard to stop once he commits. Good control-based fight IQ, understands how to win rounds, and he doesn't take unnecessary risks, right? Very good at staying to the game plan. I also like how he can mix in these strikes. If you saw his last fight, when he came out, he starts doing like wheel kicks and round. I'm like, okay, this guy is definitely not a one-trick pony when it comes to like just strictly wrestling. Does have some entry predictability. People can anticipate his opponents can anticipate the level changes. Knees and uppercuts, definitely we have to look out for him because we know he's going to try to take us down. And his threat, I would say his submission threat game is moderate at best. By that I mean, again, he's more of a control-based guy than a submission hunter. Like, he wants to keep you on the ground and just get off damage than kind of like give up position to hunt for the submission. Path to victory, other than basically trying to take you down to the depths of hell, is going to shoot takedowns off of pressure, transition to the clinch if it's needed, and then stay persistent. Again, like I said, prioritize position over submission, and let's land a ton of ground and pound. Ribeiro, on the other hand, he's 3-4 in the UFC, coming off of a KO loss against Umar Sikh that happened in September, and he's riding a 2-fight win streak, all right? The good thing for Ribeiro is he's got pretty solid knockout power, right? He's got that one shot, one hitter quitter in him. People who don't respect his power definitely feel the effects of it. Excuse me. He's got a pretty good length and frame for the division. He's 6'3". Very good at, very hard for opponents to close distance on him if they don't know how. He's good at keeping his opponents at range. Explosiveness is another good thing for Ribeiro. He's good at fast bursts of offense, can overwhelm opponents very early and often. The big thing for him is, again, it's kind of like what we see with these guys who have just relied solely on their power, is just that they let moments, lie in terms of inactivity and low output. They're waiting for that one good shot. Meanwhile, time goes by, you're losing the round, right? His grappling defense, which is really going to hurt him in this one, is going to be, if it's a strong wrestler, he can get taken down. He has had a very, very hard time against pressure wrestlers and a very hard time getting back to his feet. Path to victory for him, controlled start, right? Let's establish the reign with our jabs and our kicks, Let's try to keep Yakiev on the outside. Let's keep him at distance. And let's try to read his tendencies. Let's see if we can get a predictable, we know he's going to try to take us down, but let's see if we can get a predictable entry, get a knee in there, get an uppercut in there, and then just, commit to our combinations. let's look to, also he's probably going to look to counter pretty well too. Pretty much keep Yakiev hesitant is the big thing to do. Keep him guessing. I think Yakiev is going to be just overwhelmed personally. I think he's way too much guy for Ribeiro. I think this is going to be a second round submission all day. So ride with Vegas, build a parlay off of this one. Yakiev round 2 submission. Actually, hold on. I'm taking that one back. Not submission, TKO, round 2 TKO. Ribeiro is very chinny too. I forgot to mention that. All right, our co-main event is going to be in the women's strawweight division. We got Virna Jandiroba taking on Tabitha Ricci. Jandiroba is ranked number 3, while Tabitha Ricci is ranked number 7. Jandiroba is your slight favorite, is -105, with Ricci's a -115. Again, this is going to be, it's kind of similar game plans, but all right. Jandiroba, she's 8-4 in the UFC. Before losing to Mackenzie Dern in her championship fight, dude, Jandiroba was on a tear, man. She was doing really, really good. She's got elite submission skills, okay? She's amongst the best BJJ practitioners in that division, okay? Dangerous, really dangerous from the top, really dangerous, especially when she gets your back, and she can finish fights quickly once her position's secured. Mackenzie Dern to me, was a little bit too big for her. She was just a little outmatched her in terms of strength and was able to just, put the game on her terms, or the fight on her terms rather. But her positional dominance, Jandiroba, advances position really, really well, okay? She doesn't take unnecessary risks. She's super patient. Grappling IQ, very, very high level, okay? She understands transitions at an expert level, and she doesn't force bad positions. The thing that really gets her is just basically her lack of striking. It's very low output, very rudimentary, and she's not really a high volume girl to get it off, so that's kind of how she can lose rounds. Again, she can be outstruck at range. She's, for a UFC fighter, she's very below average at that level. Okay. Path to victory I see for her is obviously grappling engagement, right, guys? Let's initiate the clinch. Let's take her down, and then, hey, let's go get her on the level in terms of, okay, this is my house. Grappling is where I excel at. It's time to get it done. All right. Tabitha Ricci, on the other hand, she's coming off of a great TKO win against Amanda Ribas. That happened in July, okay? She's got, not only is she good at grappling and, practitioner of BJJ, but she's a very good judo player as well. Good, strong takedown ability, especially when it comes to trips and throws, okay? Good, effective clinch work, and can dictate where the fight takes place, especially when she gets her opponent up against the cage. Her striking, as I see, very, very much improving, and very good boxing fundamentals. She's more comfortable at range, but she can definitely close the distance and, trip and get you down if she wants to. Good activity and pace as well. Very good output for 3 rounds, wins minutes consistently, and just has got a good gas tank that she can go, for the full 15 minutes. She does get hit clean in exchanges as far as her striking defense goes, but Jandiroba is really not that girl who's going to put she's not going to put the pace on you in terms of striking. She's definitely not going to put the pace on you in terms of volume striking, right? She's not Ricci's not the fastest striker in the world, but again, that's not, Jandiroba's game. She can be outstruck at range, but again, she can be outstruck at range, but at the end of the day, can she defend the takedown of Jandiroba? Her path to victory is going to be pretty much clear and cut clinch engagement, right? Let's initiate the trip. Let's initiate our judo throws. Use our hips really well for body locks and stay physical. Not only, I think if she gets her to the ground, obviously she's going to look for submissions, but her ground and pound is where she's going to, really, really, really stand out, especially if she racks up a good enough control time. I'm going to say Jandiroba is going to get this one. Just looking at her body of work for the last fights, except for the Mackenzie Dern one, Jandiroba was putting it on a bunch of girls, right? She's really, really good. I just think she just kind of just met her match with Mackenzie Dern. Do I see if her and Mackenzie Dern fight 5 times, I would say, Mackenzie Dern's probably going to win 3 out of 5 of them, but I still think Jandiroba has the tools to, at one point in time, get the belt around her waist. So I'm going to go Jandiroba. Definitely goes distance this one. I don't see either of the girls finishing it, but Jandiroba gets the decision, goes distance. Okay, we're on to the main event. We got Renato Money Moicano taking on Chris Duncan in the lightweight division. All right, Moicano is your plus 170 dog, while Chris Duncan is your minus 205 favorite. All right. Money Moicano, he's 12-7 in the UFC, coming off of a tough unanimous decision loss against Darrius that happened in June. I picked Moicano on that one too. I could have sworn he was gonna. Darrius really. That's another story. Every time I bet on Darrius, he loses too. So what are you gonna do? Moicano's riding a 2-fight skid right now. Very good technical striker, right? Excellent jab, excellent distance control, very clean combinations, good fundamentals. Okay. Also, extremely well-rounded too. Good high-level BJJ black belt. You know, he's dangerous in scrambles, and, you know, he sees openings where a lot of guys don't. Makes adjustments mid-fight, and, you know, he can stay composed under pressure. My big thing with him is, you know, he does have some durability issues. You know, he's been finished in strikes in the past, but when I say finished by strikes in the past, I don't think he's been knocked out at least since 2020, maybe, so 6 years. He can be vulnerable to power punchers, and he kind of, my big thing, this is the knock that I think about Money Moicano. He's a very slow starter, right? You know, he takes his time to find his rhythm, and he can give away moments which kind of take away the rounds. His path to victory, let's establish our range, let's use our jabs and our kicks to our advantage, and let's read Chris Duncan's tendencies and kind of use those to our advantages, right? If he targets the body and the legs, you know, he breaks his opponents down, it's really his to win, especially if he mixes his combinations. Chris Duncan, on the other hand, he's 7-1 in the UFC, coming off a good sub win against Terrence McKinney. That was in December, and he's on a streak right now, boys and girls. He's riding a 4-fight win streak. He's got some legit KO power, okay? He can end fights quickly, definitely power in both hands, and very dangerous in exchanges. Constantly very big forward momentum guy, forces opponents into firefights, which usually lead to his advantage because, again, like I said, he's got power in both hands. Wants to finish the fight early, and he's super aggressive. You know, I'm trying to go for that knockout in round 1 or earlier in round 2. You know, the big knockdown on him, though, he relies really, really heavily on his chin, right? Which is basically, that's good up until you get to a power puncher, but you really need to use your boxing and defense to your advantage, okay? Grappling defense, he can be controlled by stronger wrestlers. You know, he's still developing his defensive wrestling, but I do think he's got enough maybe to stay out of the woods out of a submission, but just control time is a little different. Moicano, I think, is not more or less a submission hunter than he is more of a control guy when it comes to getting you on the ground. But so if I'm going, like, really looking at the tail of the tape of this one, so I think Moicano, he's been fighting for a while, right? I think his first fight was when, it's been a minute. But Moicano, I think his best days are behind him. I think he's kind of reached past his prime at this point. I think he can get it done against lesser fighters. You know, guys who might be like 3-4 in the UFC, you know, 5-3. But in terms of the upper echelon, I don't think that's happening anymore. I think Chris Duncan's on a tear. I think Chris Duncan's since it's a 5-round guy and he's got super power, I can see him putting Moicano's lights out, definitely in the 4th or the 5th. That's what my money's on. But again, Moicano, I just think in terms of, to me, every time I see him talk or whatever, it seems like he's not, like, his head's not all the way in it. He might be half in, half out of the game. I could be reading that wrong, but in terms of what I see, it's just that, you know, again, he's good against the lower echelon guys, maybe guys who are trying to break into the top 15, or like guys who are right at 16, 17. I don't think, you know, that he looks like he's like the gatekeeper to get ranked now. That's what it's coming off as, but anyway, I'm saying Chris Duncan round 4 or 5 for the finish, TKO. All right, guys, that's the end for for today's show. Appreciate you staying with me, and let's see how we do on Saturday. All right, see you.